Part 1. The Forbidden Sushi. You are the King of England and the Duke of Normandy. Your name? Henry I. You didn't get here by accident. You're the youngest son of William the Conqueror, and you spent your youth watching your older brothers fight until you were the only one left standing. You've earned the nickname Beauclerc because you're educated, and the Lion of Justice because you've turned a chaotic kingdom into a well-oiled machine of law and order. You were the fourth son of William the Conqueror. In the medieval terms of service, that meant you were the backup to the backup. While your older brothers, Robert and William Rufus, were busy fighting over land and titles, you were busy hitting the books. You earned the name Beauclerc, fine scholar, because you could read and write, a rare flex for a 12th century warlord. But your big break came in 1100. You were out hunting with your brother, King William Rufus, when a stray arrow suddenly found its way into his chest. I know, very mysterious. Most brothers would mourn. You didn't even wait for the body to get cold. You rode straight for the royal treasury in Winchester, seized the gold, and got yourself crowned in Westminster Abbey before anyone could even ask who shot the arrow. It was the ultimate hostile takeover. Your brother Robert, the Duke of Normandy, wasn't thrilled. He invaded England to take his crown back, but you didn't just beat him, you dismantled him. At the Battle of Tinchebray in 1106, you captured him and kept him in a luxurious prison for the next 28 years. You were the King of England and the Duke of Normandy, reuniting your father's empire by effectively deleting your own family members. You created the Exchequer, the world's first serious tax office, and made sure that if someone broke the law, they didn't just get a fine, they got a permanent biological modification, usually losing a hand or an eye. You were untouchable until tragedy struck on November 25th, 1120. Your only legitimate son and heir, William Adelin, boarded a high-speed vessel called the White Ship. The crew was drunk, the pilot was overconfident, and the ship hit a rock in the English Channel. Your son died, and with him, your entire plan for a peaceful succession. They say that from that day on, you never smiled again. By 1135, you're 67 years old, an absolute unit for the 12th century. You've survived wars, assassination attempts, and even the White Ship disaster that claimed the life of your only legitimate son and heir. You are the most feared and respected man in Europe, which makes the way you will meet your end even more ironic. You're out hunting near Lyon-la-Forêt. You're tired, you're irritable, and you're hungry. Your personal physician looks at your dinner and gives you one final piece of advice. Do not eat the lampreys. In the medical theory of the time, lampreys were cold and moist, a lethal combo for an elderly man's digestive system. But you're the man who seized the treasury and imprisoned his brother for 3 decades. You don't take no for an answer, especially not from a fish that looks like a vacuum cleaner attachment. You order a surfeit, a massive, gluttonous heap of the forbidden eels. A few hours later, you begin to feel weird. I mean, look at these things. I wouldn't classify these slimy, worm-like creatures as a delicious snack, but people back then had their own taste, I guess. This isn't just a bad stomach. This is a masterclass in acute gastroenteritis, the sudden, violent inflammation of your stomach and intestinal lining. Lampreys are parasitic bottom feeders. They are high in fat and, in the 12th century, were often crawling with bacteria like Listeria monocytogenes or Salmonella. At 67 years old, your digestive fire, your stomach acid and gut microbiome, is no longer the fortress it once was. You've ingested a massive overdose of these pathogens. They begin to dissolve the very barrier meant to keep the outside world out of your blood. Within hours, your hypothalamus, your body's thermostat, detects the invasion and slams the heat button. Your temperature skyrockets toward 40 degrees Celsius. This is a desperate attempt to cook the bacteria, but it's a double-edged sword. In a body your age, this heat begins protein denaturation, the microscopic unfolding of the proteins that keep your cells functional. You're basically melting from the inside out. Your intestinal wall, weakened by the inflammation, finally suffers a containment breach. The bacteria and their toxic byproducts leak directly into your sterile bloodstream. This is septicemia. Your blood, once the delivery system for your royal authority, is now a high-speed highway for poison. To summarize your death, you didn't overdose on alcohol, cocaine, or something, let's say, fun. You overdosed on disgusting prehistoric suction cups that your doctor literally begged you to stay away from. Part 2, the kitchenware reality check. Imagine this. You are Richard I. To the world, you are the Lionheart, a living legend of the Crusades whose name alone makes enemies reconsider their life choices. You are the high watermark of medieval chivalry, brave, poetic, and utterly terrifying in a suit of mail. You spent your life turning the map of Europe and the Middle East into your personal sparring ground. But here's the reality for the people of England. You are the ultimate absentee landlord. You are the King of England, yet you treat the country like a dusty ATM. You famously remarked that you'd sell London to the highest bidder if you could find one, just to fund your next war. You don't speak the language of your subjects. You spent less than 6 months of your 10-year reign on English soil, and you view your kingdom less as a home and more as a business expense for your true passion, hitting people with heavy objects in far-off lands. Your career began with the most traditional of medieval pastimes, trying to overthrow your own father. In 1173, encouraged by your mother, the legendary Eleanor of Aquitaine, you joined your brothers in a massive revolt against King Henry II. It failed, and you had to beg for his forgiveness, but it set the tone for your life. You weren't a family man, you were a predator in waiting. By the time your father died in 1189, broken and defeated by your own military pressure, you didn't mourn. You simply picked up the crown and started looking for the exit. You didn't stay in England long enough to learn where the bathrooms were. You sold every office, lordship, and piece of land you could get your hands on to fund the Third Crusade. You arrived in the Holy Land and immediately proved why you were the Lionheart. At the Siege of Acre, you didn't just win, you showed a ruthless streak that chilled the world, executing 2,700 prisoners when the ransom negotiations got too slow for your liking. You fought Saladin to a stalemate, becoming the only man he truly respected and feared. But for all your glory, you never actually took Jerusalem. You were a brilliant tactician who forgot that the point of a war is usually to finish it. Your journey home from Jerusalem was less of a victory lap and more of a high-stakes hostage situation. You were shipwrecked, caught in disguise in Vienna, and sold to the Holy Roman Emperor for a ransom so high it practically bankrupted England. Your subjects were literally taxed for the silver in their churches just to buy you back. Once you were finally released, you didn't even bother to stay in England for a thank you tour. You went straight to France to spend the next 5 years burning down castles in a petty border war against King Philip II. By March 1199, you were besieging a tiny, third-rate castle called Châlus-Chabrol over a rumored pot of gold that probably didn't even exist. You were walking the siege lines at dusk, mocking the defenders and refusing to wear your heavy chainmail, acting like the world was your private garden. That's when a lone defender, a young boy with a frying pan for a shield and a rusty crossbow, decided to end your main character's streak. The boy took aim and took a shot at you. The crossbow bolt slammed into your left shoulder, near the neck. It didn't hit a major artery, which gave you the false hope that you were fine. However, the bolt was buried deep in the muscle. When you tried to pull it out yourself, the wooden shaft snapped, leaving the iron head wedged inside your body like a jagged piece of shrapnel. In modern times, it would not be the end of the world. However, in the 12th century, surgeon was often a synonym for butcher. To get the iron out, a doctor had to hack into your shoulder in a torchlit tent. Without anesthesia or any concept of germs, he used unwashed blades to dig through your muscle. All he did was create a massive, ragged, open wound that was essentially a luxury hotel for bacteria. Within days, the wound turned a sickly, bruised purple and began to swell. This was Clostridial myonecrosis, gas gangrene. The bacteria, likely introduced by the dirty bolt or the surgeon's knife, began to ferment your flesh. They released foul-smelling gases under your skin, quite literally rotting your shoulder while you were still alive to feel it. The toxins from the rotting tissue leaked into your bloodstream, triggering septic shock. Your blood pressure plummeted, your fever skyrocketed as your body tried to cook the infection, and your organs began to shut down one by one. Yeah, you spent your entire life being the most terrifying man in the 12th century, surviving epic holy wars and literal royal kidnappings, only to be taken out by a teenager using a kitchen utensil as a shield.